Morning, all. My name is Engineer Collins Okoli. I'm the CEO, Callion Realty Limited. We are into construction, project management, procurement of construction materials, and also both theoretical and practical teaching of engineering practice. Today, I will explain because every time we keep hearing who is an engineer on site, who is a builder. The whole thing is becoming, Nigerian engineering system is becoming very, very disorganized. There is overlapping of function. Architects, they don't know their job again. Civil engineers, they don't know their job again. Builders, they don't know their job, and so on. You see everybody answering, I'm a civil engineer, I'm a civil engineer. Now, I'm going to explain what engineering is all about in a layman term. That is, I don't need to, I will explain it to the simplest form. Now, consider this scenario. God is the creator or the ultimate creator of the universe. God created the universe. Everything initially was appearing in its natural state. Now, as man keep evolving, they try to change the creation of God to their own benefit. And that is the simplest meaning of engineering. Engineering is what? You are trying to modify or to create something that is already existing in its natural state to suit a particular purpose. For example, if the purpose is for occupancy, for building, for shelter, you see an empty land. In the olden days, the early men, they have cave, they have bushes, they have trees, they hide under the trees for shelter. But the modern man came about, okay, let's erect a structure, a building structure to cover us, to shelter us from the environmental impact, from rainfall, snow, thunder strike, and all those things, and even shelter against wild animal. Now, but one thing you have to know is that from Newton's law of motion, Newton says that action and reaction are equal and opposite, and something must always be at rest when it's now being worked on, and when force is applied on any system that is at rest, it changes motion. That is, action and reaction are equal and opposite. So something that God has already created, a land, you see a land, empty land, existing naturally, there is no disturbance. And we engineers, we say, okay, we want to build a structure. We must expect what? Consequences, reaction. The land will react. Now, it is the work of the engineer to sit down, analyze that particular system, for example, land, and estimate the likely consequences or reaction, then provide adequate reinforcement for that. Now, if you load a particular land with a building structure, definitely you will expect what? Settlement. You will expect what? Deformation. Now you watch my system, you see I'm doing a lot of calculation. That is basically the work of a structural engineer. Structural engineer has to do with what? Structures alone. We have a lot of engineering, even in medicine, even in agriculture. All these things in agriculture, we have, engineering of what's it called? Genetic mutation. We are trying to alter something that is already existing. All those things are what? Engineering. But I will limit it to construction and structural engineering because myself, I am a structural engineer. And also, I teach structural engineering as a lecturer. So, back to what I was saying, it's now the work of the engineer to sit down, calculate what are the likely reaction, then provide adequate reinforcement. Adequate reinforcement can now be what is the type of construction material we want to use. For example, here in Nigeria, the most common construction material or the system of construction is reinforced concrete. Now you now go back to design and do your reinforced concrete design. Sometimes when I come to sites, because Nigeria is still developing, they don't even know the real meaning of who is an engineer. They confuse engineer. We see somebody, they confuse even messing. Provided you are mixing concrete, you are doing this one, they feel like you are doing the work. Forgetting that engineering is more of, is a mental, it has to do with mental ability. It has to do with the ability to what? To analyze, to design, to predict. You sit down and calculate. If I load this structure on this soil and it has a bearing capacity of, let's say, 80 kilonewton per meter square, what will be the likely outcome? What type of reaction, what type of reinforcement will I provide? Is it going to be a pad footing? Should I change the grade of concrete? These are what you sit down and analyze. Then you go to site again and ensure that they implement that which you have already calculated on your own. That's why a standard site should have at least a fully registered experienced engineer on site. But if you come, you see everybody, provided you have a little experience on how to lay blocks, and also you are will I say, we call it what, being streetwise. You try to, because maybe you have gotten one or two you have witnessed where they build house, one or two, you see them. And because our people here, they don't value mental ability as an engineer. They see engineer as a physical, is a physical skill. No. That's why if you go in the developed countries, you will see in a site, you may have at least one or two civil engineers, well paid. Then you now have builders, artisans, who are now executing the job. The main aim of the civil engineer is to control and to direct, not actually going to side there and supervise, bend this like this. Control, visualize, just more like the CEO in a company. As a CEO, you are supposed to reduce, your main work is the vision. You vision, then you imbibe on the subordinates. They go in the field and deliver what you want them to deliver. So I believe with this that you were able to understand what engineering is all about, and who is an engineer. Engineering is what we are trying to modify something that is already existing in nature. And you don't just modify something that is existing in nature without expecting what? Consequences. And when you are expecting consequences, that's when you need an engineer. Because that consequence is going to be catastrophic if you don't what? Plan for it. So that is my topic for today. Thank you. See you on the next one. I remain my humble self, Engineer Okoli Collins Chukwebuka, CEO and MD, Callion Realty Limited. We construct, we design, we teach building structures. Thank you so much.